Welcome everybody to the No Fear Investing Show. We are your hosts, Mike Mackenzie and Nathan Amaral. So good to be here for another week. This is the place where we help you uncover maybe lost or deep-rooted anxiety and challenges and stress about doing maybe your first, second, or however many deals you've done. But we're here to help you overcome that and get you jump-started and revved up in your real estate business. I guess we should kick it off with maybe some news and updates. That's what we usually like to do before we get into our topic.
We usually do, yeah.
What we usually like to do. Gosh, I know that, well, I don't know if he's going to be on the call today, but on the show today, but we're listening to the show today. But the one of our students has a deal closing this Friday, which is fantastic. Excuse me. And I know there's a few deals in the pipeline. When we had our weekly results or updates call, we do that every Friday for those who don't know. But when we work with our clients more on a one-on-one basis, every Friday we have a basically live one-on-one, but one to many, where we do results and we talk about what was good this week, what wasn't so good this week, what can we plan better for next week. And so we got some deals coming in, from our clients, which is great stuff.
I heard that was a really good call Friday. I wasn't able to make it, but I heard it was really good.
Yeah, actually, excuse me. Yeah, actually, I think it was good. We had, I did a follow-up call today with Sarah, and she just brought up how great it was again. So yeah, it was, I think it was really good. We talked a little bit about like goal setting and especially what we have coming up, the new year, and setting a vision. And I think that's what people tend to do towards the end of the year, going into the new year. They're always, the resolutions of, how's my next year going to be? And Mike, I mean, come on. At the end of the day, nobody planned in 2019 that they were going to have the 2020 they did, right? I mean, it was like no one planned COVID. A lot of good stuff happening and deals closing towards the end of the year. Mike, I know this comes up, and this came up on Friday, but what's your take, before we get into today's topic, what's your take on end of year closings? Do you tend to see it happen where things close, are you seeing things right now close a little bit towards the end of the year or getting pushed out to January?
I'm seeing a little bit of both. I've had a couple that's been pushed out, but it's not really, it's been external reasonings, not because of COVID or one was a perk test delay, as you know. Mm-hmm. The other one, actually, but I still have stuff closing as well. But to be quite frank, it really doesn't bother me. I just got my P&L statement yesterday.
Yeah.
And after I picked myself up off the floor, I really welcome these push to January closes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Blatantly honest with you. I'm just gonna be blatantly honest. Yeah, please go to January.
Please go to January.
Oh God. but yeah, so some has been pushed, some are still ticking along. I've talked to other folks too, not just talking about myself. Other folks are getting things closed. Mm-hmm. Here's the real comical thing. I've had more deals, and it's not this year, but every year. The more you're an investor, the running joke is a normal closing. Those are far few.
So true.
So most things does not ever close at the date you expect it to.
That's very true.
For whatever reason.
That's very true. I think a lot of people don't realize that because they always think like, oh, if the contract date is set for that day, or if the title company says, oh yeah, we can have this closed in a week or two, and then all of a sudden it doesn't close, right? That's normal. After a while, it becomes normal. Things getting pushed out, and sometimes things getting pushed a little sooner. Actually, I was on the phone a few hours ago with this title company over in the West Coast. And I said, oh, so when do you expect to close? Like after Christmas? And I kind of said it because I was anticipating it. And she says, oh, no, we can close by Friday. And she's like, I'd like to get this closed by Friday. I was like, oh, sweet. That's awesome. So
sure.
Yeah. Why not? Right. So that's good stuff. By the way, I did want to welcome like three new people into our group, by the way, that have just like recently come in and they're exploring real estate. They want to, do their first real estate deals. So I wanted to give a shout out to Joshua, there's two Joshuas. Okay, two Joshuas. And well, and also he's also new, and it's Florian. Florin has come into our group. Florin has come into our group also, but he's actually already been closing deals already. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So Florin, Joshua, and Joshua, good to have you guys here, and welcome to our group as well. And I know some of you are going to be just launching and growing your business, which is fantastic. Now, today's topic, we're going to be talking about working with sellers, and working with sellers and what to market to them. So the message, the medium, right? What's the method, right? How are we going to get the message? What's the method of the message? Let's put it that way. So Mike, I wanted to kind of kick it off with a question, and that question is, over the years, I know you've done probably a bunch of different ways of, talking to sellers. What's been your favorite, or let's say not favorite, what's been your most productive method of contacting sellers?
REI Conversion is a complete system to help you simplify your land investing business. With our core land management and CRM tool called REI Pebble, it streamlines the entire process of land investing. From automated printing and mailing of your offer letters, to easy document generations for contracts, to purchase agreements, all the way to tracking and managing your property's buyer and seller leads. REI Pebble helps you and your team save time, automate, and organize, allowing you to run your land investing business from anywhere and giving your land business the tools and system the chance to scale and grow. Get an exclusive extended free 30-day access into REI Pebble today. Take advantage of our low bulk mailing rates with no commitments by going to www.fearlessmillionaire.com/pebble.
Obviously, the initial contact is a letter, most of the time, or mailer, rather than be a postcard or whatever. The other method after the initial contact, I'm a phone guy, Nathan. I on that aspect of it.
Okay.
Because it gives me the opportunity to maybe make them aware of why they should sell, or at least give, paint that dim picture. Do you really want to be paying taxes on all this time? You've not been there, and remind them that the property really has no bearing on their life. It's more of a burden, and you kind of paint it as a burden.
Well, can we talk about that for a minute? You talk about burden, and you talk about painting a picture of maybe their current situation, right? So, what do you typically find that the sellers will be contacting you for, right? Like what reasons are they looking to have you solve their biggest problems?
So you have a couple different sellers that contact you, and I actually had this conversation with one of our members earlier today on the chat. You have motivated sellers that do want to sell their properties, and then you have those that are what I call disguised as motivated sellers.
What is that?
So they would sell their property, but they don't really care if they sell it or not. So trying to get you can work them a little bit, but if they're not motivated, sometimes we think every seller, we need to close that seller. Not every seller is a motivated seller. And that's who our target is a true motivated seller. Somebody that's got it, that really doesn't care if they sell it or not. They're just really looking for top dollar, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's not a motivated seller. They may have called you because they don't understand the business, and they may think that you were going to go in there and pay them an astronomical amount of money for the property. Yeah. You want those that are not desperate, but just don't really have a desire for it. Maybe there's a disconnect with the property, or this day and time, hey, there's a lot of people that, our businesses are successful, but COVID, if somebody's out of work and they may have forgotten about that property, and this may be an opportunity to get some money in their pocket.
Yeah, that's so
Granted,
true.
now, we don't close immediately with them, but still, they may see the opportunity to get some money. I'm looking for sellers that it's a tax burden. They don't have any personal connection to it. It's not grandma's house, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Maybe
Yeah.
grandma's land across the street.
Yeah.
Or they're behind on taxes, or it's just it's just a burden. They just don't need it anymore. Maybe they're cleaning up things. Maybe they're getting older themselves and don't want their family to have to deal with this piece of property that they've had that they've done absolutely nothing with.
Well, you bring up a great point there, Mike, because you talk about people's motivation levels and if it's a burden to them. I think a lot of people right now, COVID does bring up a unique time and space here where people are a little bit, maybe their back is against the wall, or they're like, I'm looking for income. The stimulus check hasn't come yet. Or, maybe they've been spending a lot of time at home and they're reevaluating their assets and saying, okay, is this an asset or a liability? We've had this land, or we've had this house, and we've had whatever the property type is. We've had this piece of real estate and it's not doing anything for us. Let's just get rid of it. Let's sell it. And so what would be the difference between someone contacting you through, like a seller contacting you through a letter rather than going through an agent? Why would they choose one or the other?
To us, real estate is second nature. If we have a property, we're going to sell it, right? Or list it, or whatever we're going to do. We have to remind ourselves, not everyone understands real estate. They may have been living in an apartment their entire life. They've never bought a house. They don't understand that, I can pick up a phone and have a realtor list my property that's just a piece of dirt. Some people don't realize. Some people, I actually have talked to people that, I had one guy one time tell me, or lady or something, said, well, realtors they sell houses. They don't sell had no clue that there are realtors that sell. So they didn't know what to do with it. They don't know how to sell it. It's probably not, they don't want to deal with it, even if it is close to them, but they don't have time to do that or tell people what they need to know about the property. It's just, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
They don't know the questions. They don't know. Does it perk? Does it not perk? Does it have well, water, septic, all those type things?
Another part you bring up too is a lot of people who maybe own real estate, like they bought a house. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean they're an investor. That also doesn't mean they know how to deal with other property they may have, right? Just because someone has just the fact of going through a first purchase. I mean, there's a lot of information that goes into that. I think the survey was done by Housing Wire or Realtor.com, one of the two. I remember it was in red, but it said that about 89% of people who go through the home buying process don't really know all the details. And there's a few companies out there who are trying to make this better and streamlined, helping to put more power into the buyers and sellers' mind, whether they're selling the property, whether they're buying. They want to help educate their customer, and I think it's unfortunate if we as investors, we can't go into the deal thinking like, oh, everybody knows what they're doing, right? Or they're going to know that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And that's definitely not the case. So what would you, when it comes to working with a seller, what's your modalities and how would you approach it? You said you'd be on the phone, right? So when you're on a phone call with a seller, how do you break that down for them? Like what do you look for in that conversation?
So I try to simplify things, and here's what I've learned. I've done traditional real estate too. And every client that I've ever had in traditional real estate, they get the closing packet from it. Closing on a house is very intimidating for many people.
Right.
Because you're signing 37, 40 pieces of paper. And every client I've ever done, even a lawyer clients I've had, it's like, can you review these docs and make sure they're right? I don't understand what I'm signing.
It's so true.
And I get it. Some people, I run and joke with one of the attorneys in Charlotte. It was how quick can we sign? Because I know, because I've done so many closings, I know what I'm signing. But I'm not going to sign, especially if it's my house I'm living in, without knowing exactly what I'm doing. So it's overpowering and scary and intimidating to people. So I try to stress how simple I want to make the process. That's the key thing. I'm telling them, I want to make this simple. You're not paying me a committee. There's no realtors involved. I'm straightforward, and I give examples of realtors that may come in and say, "Well, we can sell your property for $50,000. I'm gonna list it for 50." Well, you can list it for 100, but if it's only worth 25, it's just sitting there.
Yeah,
and we've seen that a lot.
Yeah,
but I try to make the system very simple. One thing I like, that even you do is even if you do get them to agree, even giving them a video of how to walk through signing the paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I think that people are scared, and I try to answer the questions without them having to ask. I try to anticipate questions because I don't want them to feel like, well, if I ask, then he may try to take advantage of me because he's going to see that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I try to still let them feel like there's some empowerment in them, all while answering the questions they've got in the back of their mind that they may even be too scared to ask.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, because what happens to a lot of people is like there's these walls of the wall of trust, right? And so when they're first contacting you on a phone call or email or however it is, when they first start contacting you, that wall of trust is really high, and your whole goal is to bring the wall down so that people can, feel comfortable doing business with you. And there are little steps along the way that you can do to relieve the buyer, seller, buyer, whoever it is, to relieve their worries and anxiety about this process, about going through this process. And I think that's something that's really important that a lot of investors miss out on. They just look at it as like, oh, here's a lead. Ready to sell, yes or no. Ready to sell, yes or no, right? And here's my offer, take it or leave it. But a lot of that can be lost. You can lose a lot of opportunities if you're not like really nurturing your leads, but also, knowing what the client actually needs to help them, move them down the walkway or the pathway to success, whether it's selling their property or buying. Donald asks a question. Yeah.
One quick thing before we get to Donald's question.
Yeah.
A little rapport goes a long way with someone in the trust building system. Yeah. And so that's one thing. And rather it's me or somebody in my company call it. It may not necessarily be me. It may be somebody that's really trained. So
right.
Go ahead with Donald's question.
Yeah. Well, Donald was asking, do you think most sellers base the property worth off the assessed value? That's a great question.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, it's there's no cover all. As you know, Donald, as well as anyone, some do.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, you've got something
to add to what you're saying, though. I mean, this goes back to the knowledge part. Some people just go to like Zillow.com and they're like Zestimate. They type in their number. They don't know. They just they just see, oh, it's a Zestimate sounds like estimate, right? But that's not true at all. And sometimes it's all hearsay. They heard their neighbor sold their property for this much, and they heard about this and they heard about that, or they saw it in the newspaper or whatever. And the reality is that's not, the proper way. I mean, some people do go off assessed value, but that's not always the case. So then Donald also asks, I ask because a lot of people say they don't know what their property is worth. Exactly.
And I love when they don't know what their property is worth. That could be a good thing. But also you get this right here. Well, the property, 100 yards from mine sold for $50,000. Yeah, well, it's also 10 times the size of yours.
Right.
Because they just see the price. They don't see, they don't know. It's a lack of knowledge that you got to look at the acreage. You got to look at there's a lot more to it than just
so true.
The price.
It's so true. Even the same thing with houses, a 3-bed, 2-bath, then they're like down the street. They just sold it for $300,000. Yeah, but yours doesn't have a detached garage. Yours doesn't have the granite countertops. Yours doesn't have the new windows that are solar energy proof or whatever, energy efficient, right? It's all those little things, but that you said it so well, Mike. It's knowledge, right? It's knowing the difference between what's being sold.
A property is worth what the market's willing to pay for it. I don't, you know, you can look at everything, and we've all, at some point in time, if you haven't, it will happen at some point. You will have all this knowledge and think, by God, I know, I'll bet my life on this. My property is worth 35,000, and you may end up selling it for 15, just for some freak reason.
Well, so let's talk about that part a little bit, right? So you listed earlier some reasons. Some people may know they have a property that's worth 30,000, but time is of the essence, health reasons. I'm paying all these taxes on it. I just want to get rid of it, right? And then they take it at a discount, and then you got a deal as an investor, right? Some people can't wait. Some people don't want to take the time. How many people don't want to take the time and also don't want to pay agent fees? They don't want to pay, deal with any agents.
They don't want to deal with agents. They don't want to do the negotiating with different people or take phone calls. A lot of people are busy. They don't know how to negotiate deals like that.
Right.
We're there to try to simplify, and that's the message that I bring. It's even in like our neutral layer, in the the layer. See, I'm trying to simplify this for you and make it simple for you. And that's the big thing. And for those that are not motivated right now, I'm not saying, wipe them off your list. Don't ever deal with them ever again. Some, you can. They're just so out in left field, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But some of those that just aren't to where you need them to be yet, put them on your calendar. I have a calendar. I put them on. Call them back in 3, 6, 9 months, whatever. Say, hey, this is Mike. I was just checking in.
Right.
I wanted to see if things changed, because also things may have changed in the fact that you can pay more money for the property, especially this day and time.
Yeah.
A year ago, what I was paying for property has changed substantially to what things are going for now.
That's a good point. Not only can the situation change, but the market changes too.
Yeah. So it's not that you got to throw them away. It may be they need that time to sulk. I had one time that literally we could not come up. He wanted me to pay what I was going to sell it for.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. And my biggest thing is, if we can make a deal, that's great. If not, we'll part friends. Well, we parted friends, and 3 months later, he called me. I didn't even give me a chance to call him. Things changed in his life.
Right.
And we went back over the deal, and I got it within $2,000 of where I wanted to be anyway.
Yeah. That's so true. You talked about earlier about building rapport with your sellers or your buyers. Talk about building rapport with sellers, because you never know. A no today might be a yes tomorrow. A maybe today may be a yes tomorrow. And it's not to just dismiss it in like, in the first offer and they don't accept it, but you do some follow-up. There's that famous saying in sales that says there's fortune in the follow-up. There's a fortune in the follow-up. And that's because when you're following up with people, things change, things happen. So these are some of the things what you want to market to sellers. These are some of the areas that people have in their life that they need solutions for. And we've listed a bunch of them. It can be health. It can be financial. It could be like a nuisance. It could be, I'm tired of paying these property taxes. Whatever it is, you have to know that they are going to release this property for a reason. And you have to kind of touch on those pain points in your marketing. Yeah.
Our key job is to find out their why for wanting to sell the property. That's our key job.
So true.
Find out their why, and then you work on that why.
That's so true. That's so true. It reminds me of a time when you find out their motivation to sell and that why. Sometimes, especially in housing, right, where you have someone who's looking to sell a property, and sometimes time is an issue. Like they can't sell right now because they're looking for another property or whatever it may be. But it's coming. You have to know the reason for the motivation. And when you discover that motivation, that's what you structure. I guess the best way to say this is structuring deal structure. That's how you structure the deal. Some people want a cash offer. Some people will take a term offer, right? So it will depend based on their motivation. Those are some great points, Mike. Some great stuff. And the same is kind of true, but we'll touch on this also on next week's episode when it comes to working with buyers, because there's a difference in the marketing. There's a difference in the message. There's a difference there. But when it comes to the sellers, Mike, I wanted to ask you a final question here and get your final thoughts on working with the sellers. When you are marketing to sellers, is there a specific time frame that you would follow up with them? Is there a specific time frame that you'd say, okay, if they said maybe today or no tomorrow, do you have a certain pattern that you like to follow? When to follow up again?
I usually, if it's a pretty solid no right now, but a no maybe, I'll give them a month to 3 months. I mean, I can throw them out there. It kind of depends on the situation. Most, at a minimum, it's a month or more out before I call them back.
Okay.
Or drop them a line or slide broadcast them, whatever it may be. And, that's another thing you got to think of. There's only so many days or hours in the day. So I prioritize my sellers also on which ones I call. It may be you develop a thing where you don't necessarily reach out to every single one of them on the first offer. Maybe it's the second offer you're talking to them.
That's a good point too. Yeah, that's a good point. Donald has a question. Mike, do you have a specific time of the day that you call sellers? Yeah, 5 a.m.
Yeah. I try to, this day and time, I think a lot of people are like me. They don't recognize the number. They're not going to answer the phone anyway.
Yeah.
Mid Saturday mornings sometimes are good. Or in the evening, not too late, but give them time to have dinner maybe.
Yeah.
Between 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a hit and miss with everybody. Nowadays, I mean, if I don't know your number and you call me, you're probably going to voicemail.
Yeah.
And if I know you and I don't want to talk to you, you're probably going to get voicemail.
Is that why I always go to your voicemail, Mike?
Yeah.
But no, it brings up a good point. I guess, years ago when I was working on call centers and stuff, we called this phone etiquette, right? And it's, there was this window. And there's actually, in some states, there's laws that, telemarketers can't call at certain times. But phone etiquette, typically, business is open from 9 to 5 on average. But I mean, if you can, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7, maybe, but 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 is typically when, the morning starts, for most people. Maybe they're on their way to work and stuff. And then I agree with you, Mike. If you start calling people past 9 o'clock, you're crossing a line of, prime time.
You're pissing them off.
Yeah. You're now, if you have permission, meaning
that's different.
It's totally different. You have an appointment, that's totally different. And Mike, I agree with you about the sellers. Can we talk just a little bit about software and we'll wrap it up from there? But you mentioned a few softwares, but because there's the whole element of someone sending they don't know your number, it goes to voicemail. So what other maybe softwares would you use to contact sellers maybe via phone?
Oh, you got the slide broadcast. You got all kinds of things that can drop voicemails, ringless voicemails, text messages, things like that. And I know that I believe it's Donald and maybe some of our others actually do use that, incorporates that in some of their offer stuff that they send out. So I think that's good. It comes down to touches. How many times do you want to touch this person, so to speak? So there's definitely ways to look at, and as you scale your business, you have to look at some more of those ways also.
That's a good point. One of the what's the you mentioned two softwares. Let's give out the the domains for those. slybroadcast.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know for text messaging, there is Call Loop. I don't know if you use another one, Mike, but callloop.com, CALL loop. No. Yeah. Oh, I don't even know off the top of my head.
And
how
if
they
you're
spell it.
using a CRM, there a lot of CRMs now
Yeah.
are incorporating text messaging and voicemail things within the CRMs.
That's true.
I think RealFlow does, and there's several others out there that started incorporating that into the system.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Some of the CRMs are now incorporating that. Or if you want a standalone, you can use something like Call Loop with 3 L's. I just looked that up. But yeah, it's very true. A lot of these newer CRMs are bringing it right in there, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Well, good stuff. Mike, any final words of wisdom for this show?
My biggest thing is don't get frustrated. Somebody says no. It's all about, this is a numbers game. We're looking for the motivated sellers, and if they're not motivated seller, find the ones that are.
That's true. Make sure
that
that
out, right?
it's like that one wasn't motivated to come out.
Exactly.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks everybody for joining in, sharing your comments. Thanks so much for chiming in. We'll see you next week, same time, same place here on the No Fear Investing Show. Have a great day.